Doctor Who, Worst to Best, Season 20. Hello and welcome to another in this occasional series of videos detailing a season of Doctor Who from the worst stories to the best. This time around, Season 20 of Proper Doctor Who. You might think that this was a brilliant tie-in to the upcoming Blu-ray release of Season 20. You'd be wrong. I actually just kind of fed the number of seasons into the random number generator on Google and it came out with season 20. But it looks clever, or at least it did until I said that. Oh well. Anyway, starting from worst through to best. The worst story of season 20, in my opinion, is Arc of Infinity. Apparently this story has some fans. I can't quite figure out why. It's not good. The location filming in Amsterdam is not very good. They've chosen some fairly unattractive spots to do the location filming, which is kind of a weird thing to do, but okay. The plot is kind of meh. Omega is kind of meh. The Ergon, or whatever the hell the fucking chicken thing is kind of ridiculous. The whole Gallifrey plot is just the height of tedium, and it's so obvious from moment one that Michael Gough is the bad guy. He's the biggest guest star, but you can easily identify him from his voice in the very first scene with the quote unquote the traitor. It's like, hello, it's Michael Gough. we know. Nobody's shocked by the reveal in episode 4. It's Michael Gough. And we get Tegan back. I mean, oh dear, we thought we'd got rid of her. More eternal whining with an Aussie twang. Oh dear, get enough of that round here. Who said that? Yeah, Arc of Infinity. The only good things about Arc of Infinity is Nyssa shooting people and Colin Baker hamming it up as Maxil. It is funny how Colin takes what should be a pretty uninteresting, bland guard character and tries his best to steal the entire show by hamming it up mercilessly. But yeah, there's not a lot to recommend Arc of Infinity. It's pretty bad. So that was what, 7th place? So 6th place I would give The King's Demons. There's some lovely location ship. There's some lovely, the costumes, the sets. It's beautifully made. It looks a lot better than Arc of Infinity does. And I quite like part 1. I think part 1's quite interesting. It's quite atmospheric. It's a nice historical thing. I do think Peter Davison should have gotten a few more historical settings. Unfortunately, I don't know whether this was because the story was, I don't know, was it meant to be a two-parter, or was it meant to be a longer story and was crushed down into 2 parts? Because episode 2 is just a complete clusterfuck of running around, and all the guest characters who were quite interesting and sympathetic in episode 1 just turn into a bunch of complete and total twits in part 2, who you really couldn't care less if the Master killed them all. Not even Anthony Ainley hamming it up can save it in part 2, which is, yeah, it's a shame, because I heard somebody on some podcast recently saying that they thought it was the best of the Peter Davison 2-parters. I think it's the absolute worst of the Peter Davison 2-parters, and by not some inconsiderable margin. Black Orchid and The Awakening are both way better than this. I'm sorry. 5th place. It's tough because I quite like season 20. In fact, it's one of my top 10, certainly of classic Who. 5th place, I think I would go with Snake Dance. I quite like Snake Dance. I famously loathe and despise Kinder, but I quite like Snake Dance. I think it does what Kinder was trying to do, but does it considerably more intelligently and in a way that actually makes some kind of fucking sense on screen. I know there are some fans who think that not making any sense whatsoever makes the story really clever. It doesn't. It just means it's stupid. Snake Dance is pretty good. It's not my favourite of the season, not by a long chalk. But I do vastly prefer it to Kinder, and it is pretty entertaining. Fourth place. Now this might raise some eyebrows. Terminus. I like Terminus. I have always liked Terminus. I liked it when I saw it in the late 80s. I've liked it every single time I see it. I have no doubt I will like it the next time I see it. I don't get where the bad reputation comes from. Especially when you compare it to stuff like Arc of Infinity and The King's Demons. It's an intelligent, well-written story. It's clearly a bit low budget, but they get away with it with a grim atmosphere. The regulars are great. The ongoing Turlough Black Guardian story is still interesting, and there's some nice character development for Turlough. A lot of people dismiss the scenes with Tegan and Turlough as padding. This is because these people are fucking stupid. A lot of these scenes are important to developing Turlough's character and his the kind of unlikely bond with Tegan and his growing doubts about the devil's bargain that he's got himself into. I like Terminus quite a lot. I think it's an interesting story. I've never understood what's supposed to be wrong with it. I have to be honest. I find it interesting and atmospheric. Not one of my absolute favourite stories, but it goes in fourth place of the season. I think it's pretty decent. Third place, Mawdryn Undead. Big fan of Mawdryn Undead. Well, I mean, what's not to love? It's fast paced. There's a lot packed in, but it all makes sense. You've got Turlough being introduced. You've got the Black Guardian back. You've got the Brigadier back, with Nicholas Courtney being as wonderful as ever. You've got one of the few examples of a really time travel kind of based story in the original show, set in two different time zones with two different versions of the same character. It's really ambitious. And it does it all in a very intelligent way that makes it completely accessible and understandable as to what is going on. I really like Mawdryn Undead. It's a very, very solid story. Second place, Enlightenment. Apparently someone described Enlightenment as an acquired taste. Okay, well clearly I've got that acquired taste because I think Enlightenment is brilliant. This is my kind of Doctor Who, this kind of weird, surreal mix of kind of fantasy in there. The whole atmosphere of it is really interesting. The story is compelling. The guest characters, Keith Barron and that guy who plays Mariner, are wonderfully creepy. The regulars are good. You know, that kind of creepy and unsettling subplot with Mariner being fixated on Tegan. It's very interesting. It's not the kind of thing you usually see in Doctor Who, and it's very, very interesting, and it's beautifully made. Apparently, you know, in the season 20 box set, we're getting another new version of Enlightenment with new special effects. It's like, why? The original has got some of the most beautiful effects, some of the most beautiful model shots in the entire fucking history of the show. I don't get why it needed one special edition, let alone two. There's maybe one model shot that doesn't work, and that's when when Turlough's out in space and they're trying to bring him in. That looks a bit crap. But the rest of it looks absolutely fucking beautiful, and no amount of shitty low budget CGI is going to better it. I don't get it. And the episode 1 cliffhanger is one of the best freaking cliffhangers in the history of the show. Wonderful stuff. Love Enlightenment. Classic in my book. But it doesn't get number one spot, of course, because, well, what gets the number one spot? The Five Doctors. I mean, there's no way the Five Doctors is not getting the number one spot. I love the Five Doctors. It's one of my absolute favourite stories. It's definitely in my top 20. It's probably my overall favourite Peter Davison, honestly. Earthshock's a close second. I'm not sure after that. I might even put Enlightenment in third, and then Androzani somewhere in fourth. Don't get me wrong, I like Androzani, but I think it's a bit overrated. Whereas the Five Doctors is just, it's pure undiluted Doctor Who. I love it. I mean, Hurndall does a fantastic job. I've said it all before. Hurndall does a great job as the first Doctor. wonderful having Pat and John back. And it's a beautifully clever story. We've got the brig and all. The only disappointments, I suppose, is that it's a shame that K9 wasn't in it more. But you know what JNT was like. Miserable bastard. But yeah, I love the Five Doctors. It's the anniversary story, in my opinion. And I very much doubt it will ever be bettered. Anyway, that's my list of worst to best Doctor Who stories. If you've never seen season 20, well, get ready. It's out next month on Blu-ray. You've no excuse. Go and buy it and enjoy it. It's an excellent season for the most part, as I hope this review is a testament to. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.